was walking home from school on a cold winter day. Took a shortcut through the woods and I lost my way. It was getting late and I was scared and all alone. Then a kind old man took my hand and led me home. Mama couldn't see him, but he was standing there, and I knew in my heart he was the answer to my prayer. Oh, I believe there are angels among us, sent down to us from somewhere up above. They come to you and me in our darkest hours to show us how to live, to teach us how to give, to guide us with the light of love. When life had troubled times and had me down on my knees, there's always been someone to come along and comfort me. A kind word from a stranger to lend a helping hand, a phone call from a friend to say I understand. Ain't it kind of funny, at the dark end of the road, someone lights the way with just a single ray of hope. Oh, I believe there are angels among us, sent down to us from somewhere up above. They come to you and me in our darkest hours to show us how to live, to teach us how to give, to guide us with the light of love. There were so many faces show up in the strangest places. They grace us with their mercies in our time of need. Oh, I believe there are angels among us, sent down to us from somewhere up above. They come to you and me in our darkest hours to show us how to live, to teach us how to give, to guide us with the light of love, to guide us with the light of love.
We know that we have been given abundant joy and abundant resources to be God's children and people here on earth. At this time, let us return a portion of that for the work of the church here on earth. She remembers that it was getting toward evening. Dusk was beginning to fall when she looked up from the book that she was reading. She thought to herself, they should be getting home by now. She glanced at the clock on the wall, and she got up from her chair and crossed the room and looked out the window. Was that them in the driveway? No, it wasn't them. And so she went back to the book that she was reading. It was the ringing phone that would not only shatter the silence, it would shatter the family's life as they had known it. She was to have gone motorcycle riding with her husband, as she often did. But she'd had a long day of babysitting one of the grandchildren, and so she was too tired. She decided not to go for the ride, and she had her son accompany his father instead. Hello? Yes, this is, my son, involved in a minor accident? Tell me, is my husband with him? Good, I'll be right there. So she gets in the car and she speeds from the suburbs down into the city, and she gets to the hospital. She's praying the entire way. Please, God, let my son be okay. Please let him be okay. But when she stepped into the emergency room, she began to notice an incongruity here, because her son was sitting in the waiting room and he was crying. And suddenly that relief that she had felt was a choking sensation in her throat. Where is your father? And the son points to the ER. Dad's been badly injured and he's in a coma. He's on life support. They wouldn't let her in to see him. The prognosis, he was severely brain damaged. He'll never work again if he lives. It seems that his motorcycle had had a head-on collision with a Jeep, and the cycle became implanted into the front grille of the Jeep, and it sent him flying over it, landing on his right side, where he suffered a massive stroke. Now, the son, who was following him on his own bike, quickly, and who didn't really sustain any injuries, ran over to his dad and got him breathing again. When they did let her into the ER, she knew it wasn't good because, you see, ironically, she was an ER nurse. And immediately she started to read the signs in a situation like this. He was on a respirator. His eyes were fixed and dilated. He'd suffered this massive stroke, and there were 2 very deep bleeds in his brain. She kept the vigil for 5 days. She left his side only to go to the chapel to pray. And it was there that she rested, lying on a pew. Then some people came, bringing to Jesus a paralyzed man, carried by 4 of them. And when they could not bring him to Jesus because of the crowd, they removed the roof above him, and after having dug through it, they let down his mat on which the paralytic lay. In Mark's gospel, we hear a great deal about Jesus as healer, because that's often the way that Mark presents Jesus, powerful healer. He releases people from the bondage of illness. But I think we always have a little bit of trouble with what is so-called faith healing. We can't seem to wrap our minds around it completely because I think we've been fooled so many times by people who are frauds, who aren't real healers. And so you read it and you in your head you say, okay, he healed them, and then you think, how do I transfer that or translate that, into modern times and into modern day? The gospel story this morning is about the friends of this crippled man. They really want him to be healed. That's also important for us to see. And they want it so much that they stop at nothing, including, digging a hole in this, perhaps a sod roof, because they said, I don't know how else you could dig a hole, but perhaps through dirt or mud. And they let him in and down, and that was a lot of work. They had to be earnest about all of this, or they wouldn't have done what they did. And they really did believe that Jesus might prove to be the one who would heal him. So when we look at Jesus as the healer, we have to realize that this was not commonplace, and that every time Jesus steps forward and puts his hands on someone or tells them to stand up, take up your mat, and go home, or puts his hands on someone's eyes so that they can see, or calls the demons from them, that he is challenging what everyone believed at that time, that this couldn't possibly be happening. He challenges and challenges and challenges. And you've got those, you can almost feel the tension, because you've got those who believe and you've got the skeptics who are saying, there's some kind of funny business going on here. When Jesus heals, he looses a power in the world that confronts sickness in a very different way. Now, for us, maybe the dilemma is in the possibility that we can't believe that there's really more good in the world. Maybe more good things could happen. We're so prepared for the disaster, aren't we? Aren't we really prepared? If something goes wrong anywhere in the world, including this lost plane going to Malaysia, or from Malaysia, I don't even know where it's going anymore, but all I know is on TV, night and day, all we are is hearing about it. And so it's always the negative, the grievously ugly that we hear about. We almost, when a child goes missing, a person goes missing, and the parents or the friends or family get on the TV and say, please let them go, please let them come home. You know what most of us are saying? They're dead. They're gone. It's over. That's what we've come to see and to know. And that's our basic response. And so Jesus is offering us a possibility of not saying that anymore, or at least of being more hopeful as opposed to being so negative. The paralytic's friends believed that God would do more for their friend. Maybe we need to believe that God will do more for us too. Maybe we need to see God as this powerful force of goodness and light and love. We have so much trouble with faith healing because we lack the imaginations to project ourselves out beyond the boundaries of the present and into a new world. What would happen if all of us decided that we wanted more from life? We wanted better. And I'm not talking houses or pools or cars or boats or anything like that. What if we all said, no, I don't want to be in negative relationships. I don't want to respond negatively and nastily and in disrespectful manners. I want to be positive. I want to see the good in life. What would happen then? I'm not sure we know. I'm not ever sure we've stepped in that direction. That's faith. The ability to imagine something more. After 5 days, her husband came out of the coma, and then he was sent to the Hines Rehabilitation Center. Before he left the local hospital, though, excuse me, the trauma surgeon remarked to her, and this is a true story, you know, I'm basically a true story person. The trauma surgeon said to her, "It is evident to me that someone's hand far greater than mine has been involved in this case since the get-go." Could it have been that when they put the word out to put him on the prayer chains, everyone prayed for him? They prayed for him all around the world. And for this wife, who prior to the accident kept her faith very private and close to the vest. She didn't really go around talking about it or proclaiming Jesus in any particular manner, but now suddenly she's asking everyone, pray for my husband. And she says during this whole time, what she felt was a great sense of peace. That's what surrounded them. And her prayer throughout all of this was that she be given the grace to deal with whatever came their way. Thy will be done. It was a surrender of the personal will to the divine will. The essential truth of our faith, as well as that of the universe, is that there is for all seekers this ability to surrender our will to the will of God. And too often we dismiss it. But maybe, that time when we are facing life-threatening a crisis or situation, maybe that's when we do get down on our knees and ask for help. But we need to remember and to know that God's abundant grace and his life force is there, and we don't need to be afraid to ask for it. We don't have to be narrow or rigid in our understanding of God's abundant grace and steadfast love. These aren't just cliches. This is reality, my friends. Grace and love are tangible. They're also intangible attributes of the Creator. I wonder if our problem is not so much that we don't believe that people can be healed by faith in Jesus, but that we lack the faith that more good could abound. Now, all the while that her husband was in Hines, this friend is a harpist. She plays beautiful, beautiful music. And she's part of a group of harpists. They're called the Serenity Harpists. And they would go around and they would play, and they would never charge, ever. They gave concerts, etc. And it was magical. It was ethereal. And every day she would take the harp. I'm presuming she may have had more than one, and she would have it in his room. And every day at lunchtime for 1 hour, she would soothe him and help him to sleep by playing that harp. And the other head trauma patients who were on the floor, well, they would wander, when they would hear the music, they would wander down to his room, and they would stand outside, and they would listen. And at night, before he fell asleep, he would listen to a Christian healing tape. And always her prayer, Lord, give us the grace to deal with whatever comes our way. And Mark's gospel just underrides and undergirds her understanding. The friends of the paralytic had faith, and not merely faith that Jesus could heal people, but faith that God wanted a better world. He spent 1 month at Hines Rehabilitation Center, and then he returned to work. From having no strength on his right side, unable to feed himself, to write, to recognize letters or numbers, or to stand up, he completely recovered. In no way do we want to diminish the work of the doctors or science or therapy. But you see, when you connect mind, body, and spirit to the thread of the divine that is woven throughout our beings, this is what can happen. My friends, Jesus demands of us a wider consciousness than is available to us. We've already made determinations, just like I do. They're dead. They're dead. They'll never find that child. I have to stop saying that. I have to stop believing that that's the only response. The world that Christ beckons us toward is more expansive than our world. It's greater than what we understand, but we have to move out in faith. We have to let ourselves be encountered by Christ to meet the one who challenges our limited notions of what can and can't be, and of who is in charge and where the world is heading. You know, we here at First Church have a remarkable opportunity before us, and it challenges us on every level of our being. And so we have to ask ourselves, is our faith such that we can participate in this kind of remarkable healing and believe that through Christ all things are possible? Amen.